Welcome. Today we're going to be having a special stream with UESP. I am Benefactor. I usually am with the Imperial Library, but today I'm going to be streaming on the UESP channel, and we shall be conquering the Endless Archive today. We're going to begin in just a few moments. And my companion today seems to love his trumpet. So for those that don't know, the Endless Archive is the new content that has been released for ESO, adding an endless dungeon that you can go through several stages that will increase with difficulty over time, and you can go as far as you need to, or however far as you want to within it. They did add a location to a portal to the Endless Archive in Apocrypha, which you can find within a cave near the coast, the northern coast. The trumpets do need some musical lessons there. I agree completely. So this is the portal to the Endless Dungeon that you can be able to enter. If you do not own Necrom and do not have access to Apocrypha, you do have the ability to still enter the Endless Archive. You can be able to enter it through the map, as it's available to all base game players. And it's a very extensive dungeon that has many different enemy types, that there are many different NPCs that you can encounter, and even some side content that you can be able to encounter as well. We will be doing all the side content that we come across. Some of these watchlings here are really great.
You get attacked by so many malligraphies and still stay on the floor? I would have just flown away, but not you. You're something special, even if you don't file anything.
And the whole story of this content is that you're going after a Daedra that creates other forms of itself by manipulating the inks of books that are stored within the library itself. So Thoat Reclacanum is the name of that Daedra that we're going to be attempting to defeat today. The filers are the Daedra, the watchlings that take care of this library, that file the books away for Hermaeus Mora, to where every book that has ever been written or ever will be written or potentially could be written should be stored within the Endless Archive.
Me specifically? Books? Collections of pages, I'm just describing books. I file books. Basically everything in the archive needs to be stored in a place that makes sense. I help keep it organized.
And me being a part of the Imperial Library and even helping out UESP, I resonate with these guys 100%, as these are... I'm always filing away all the new content, going through it all, trying to discover every secret that may be out there. So we'll be reading the books as we go along and talking to these filers and the main NPC that gives us the quest in just a minute.
Here or in Apocrypha? How many mortal adventurers are there where you're from? I know of 8 other filers, as well as one pesky mortal who has her own arrangement systems and can't help but destroy our order, but there are others.
So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and pick up the daily quest.
More malligraphies? Blast these malligraphies. They keep getting unleashed on the filers and me. Will you please go deal with them and the copies of Thoat Replicanum? I'd give anything for some peace and safety.
And this guy here is Master Malcast. He is a Breton that has been, or Imperial, I'm not sure which, that has been brought to the library to help the filers out. Mortals are not usually found within these archives. It's mostly relating to those Daedra that want to file. But occasionally, Hermaeus Mora will bring in a mortal, as a mortal's inquisitiveness will provide more insights into filing away these items or keeping dangerous stuff out of the archives. So Master Malcast is the one that has been tracking Thoat Replicanum. And thank you for following Biscuit Factory Inc. With Master Malcast, he is one of the main people that you're going to be dealing with that's trying to stop this Daedra from taking over the archive or finding whatever it is that they're looking for within the archive. He's left notes for us to read and many great things about... he's one of our allies doing this quest.
There's no way to know. Thoat Replicanum's been running around for far too long. There could be hundreds of her. But I know how we can ensure there's one less Thoat in the archive. Exactly. Don't forget to take some side portals. There's more to explore in this archive than either of us know. Oh, and use the gifts from Hermaeus Mora to strengthen your weaker abilities, or to increase your most powerful ones.
And we're going to track down Thoat Replicanum.
So long as Thoat Replicanum exists within the Endless Archive, it'll never be quiet. You could return here and collect your dues after fighting the first Replicanum, but don't let that stop you from fighting her more.
And each time the goal is we are trying to find her Nimic. The Nimic is the name of a Daedra. Using the name of the Daedra, we can summon that Daedra, and once we summon her, we can kill her. That's the goal. But this Daedra in particular has spread her name throughout fragments of books throughout the archive, so we have to find multiple fragments of it in order to summon her. So we have to go through multiple stages, and then there's multiple cycles, and then there's multiple arcs that we can go through. There's going to be 3 stages, after which we face a boss enemy that will drop one of the Nimic pieces. Once we have 4 of the Nimic pieces, we'll go through 3 more stages before fighting Thoat Replicanum. And we can't use the same Nimics that we found last time, so we don't save our progress throughout the archive. We have to start from the very beginning every time.
I tried that. Unfortunately, nothing happened. These versions of Thoat Replicanum are technically separate entities. I'm not sure how much they differ, but they must have unique experiences. Regardless, they don't share the exact same true name.
Okay, how do we find the pieces of the Nimic?
Last time, the larger malligraphies carried the fragments of the Nimic. That's where I suggest we start. Who knows? Maybe Thoat Replicanum will be too wrapped up in whatever it is she's looking for to hide the fragments better. We can always hope.
Okay, we've collected the quest. Let's go ahead and read some of the books, and then we're going to explore this area first before we head into the archive and start to actually really explore. So we have notes on Thoat Replicanum. This is by the same Malacast, the same guy that we were just spoke to, we received the quest from. Notes on Thoat Reclicanum, reserved for Malcast and not to be filed until they've been copied in full into his journal. Note to self, if you record any theories that are not solidly backed with facts, do not let the filers near this book. The filers are more judgmental than the Talvani, and eschew all mortal ideas as temporary and fallible. No need to subject myself to their ridicule unduly. Thoat Reclicanum is not a creature of flesh. She is living ink, a being of magic and words. Thoat Reclicanum can travel from page to page, crossing the sections of the archive library via the books themselves. Thoat Reclicanum can create other creatures of ink. They are currently called malligraphies, and appear to be characters heavily influenced by the books they are pulled from. It is currently unclear if Thoat manifests them as separate entities, similar to a summoning, or if they share her mind and are Thoat in a separate body. More research will have to be done. Thoat Reclicanum is not a singular entity. She has the capacity to replicate herself out of the same process she creates the malligraphies. The current number of Reclicanum in the archive is thus far unknown. Not all of the malligraphies Thoat Reclicanum creates are hostile. I do not have an explanation for this currently. Perhaps this is a way of camouflaging the malligraphies, by hiding some under a guise of helpfulness or friendliness. Thoat is attempting to secrete her magic farther into the Endless Archive. Things that remain unknown. Thoat Reclicanum's intention or purpose for infecting the Endless Archive. She sometimes references that she is searching for something, but she has not been clear on what. Thoat Reclicanum's origin. How did she come to the Endless Archive? These are things that we may discuss along the way as we start to hear more about her. And once we actually meet her during one of the arcs that we're going to encounter her. And we also have Malekith's journal. For being a section of Apocrypha's great library, the Endless Archive has always been a nebulous labyrinth, a conduit for confusion, and a trap for those whose orienting has not adapted to the mercurial nature of this realm. While disparate locations within the archive's vast and sprawling space appear very different from one another, the pathways between them are often unknowingly traversed, making backtracking to the entrance nigh on impossible at the best of times. During their last Rift visit, the Scribes of Moor attempted to map the twisting arrays of the Endless Archive. They made some progress towards understanding the internal logic of this place, but their rift began to close before they could map it in its entirety. I fear there may be more of their number still wandering the corridors and hallways within. So this passage here, the Scribes of Moor are something that we encountered previously during the first dungeon content of the Necrom story arc, to where we actually met some of them and explored some of the portals that they had to other realms. So it's a callback to connecting things together with that original storyline. All of this is to say that this place has always been formidable. Lately it feels as if the archive is more chaotic than ever. I took the Scribe's map with me on my most recent excursion into the depths. None of the gateways between the archive's myriad sections align with the maps, which has never happened before. This confirms my anecdotal suspicions. To say that the locations within the Endless Archive are arranging themselves would be an overstatement, but that may be what is occurring to some degree. More accurately, I believe there are metaphysical doors creating new links between these locations. More metaphorically speaking, the doors connecting these archive wings are opening and locking randomly. More than that, it's infested with carpenters who insist on changing the blueprints or building new annexes. In short, there's something strange afoot here, and I intend to get to the bottom of this mystery. So as we go through the archive, you will see that if we attempt to do the stages again in a different, the stages that we encounter will be different each time we go through the archive. we will never encounter the same series of events over and over. Even the monsters that we face will be different. So stage 1 of Arc 1, Cycle 1 will not be the same for everybody. So it's a unique experience every time, and it's a roll of RNG. So you might be getting weaker enemies or stronger enemies, depending upon that. My journey today was purely academic. While I confirmed the existence of the archive's ever-shifting nature, I was also able to devise tactics with which to combat the mercurial halls. Thanks to the Index and my Philo companions, I am able to traverse through the hallways with only slightly more annoyance than I otherwise would have. This is no great victory, but at least I can return to my primary objective of researching more about this confusing place. Today I searched for The Elusive Traveler, a book of some small historical note by Carniez Missoni, an author of similar unimportance. All told, I didn't expect this particular volume to shed any light on the question of what the Endless Archive is, but quite notably, it was missing from the Index's records. Fowler Jun located the book in a wing by the bridges, and I was able to skim its pages before beginning my long walk back. The book appears to be in a similar vein as the majority that fill this area. It is a moderately embellished historical account of the Vestiges' travels. Many of the books contained within the Endless Archive fall under the category of historical accounts or more recent events. This is very important as the Vestiges' travels. This is including your future events. Even if you have not completed all of the content within ESO, within this library are books containing your future journeys as well as your past journeys. And due to that, the Vestiges Travels includes those books from the future as well. So you will encounter enemies even if you haven't encountered them in the base game, or if you don't have them from any other content to where DLCs, to where you are, if you have completed that content, your Vestiges re-encountering enemies they've faced in the past. But if you haven't, then it's going to be new enemies for you, but you will encounter them later in your travels throughout the world of Tamriel. Now, many of the accounts agree on the basic order of the events they recount, though they do tend to disagree on the specifics. For example, one book will say that the dragon Joramar breathed fire, while others insist that clouds of poisonous smoke erupted from his mouth. Given the differences in these accounts, the truth remains somewhat blurred. Again, just like any book in the Elder Scrolls, it's all going to be unreliable narrator. So because of who writes the books that these enemies are generated from, they can either be stronger or weaker than their actual counterparts, as they are taken from the word of who wrote the book. I am coming into a hypothesis of my own, though. I mentioned how the Index's catalog was suspiciously devoid of information regarding the Elusive Traveler. This is not the first tome which lacked information that I have stumbled upon. Without hunting down another book to confirm my theory, I will write it here and save the expedition for another day. My theory is this: the books in the catalog which have limited information available in the Index deal with the Vestiges' history. If my theory proves correct, what is the significance of this fact? And how can I find all the books? There must be a way to enter them all into the record. I stumbled into what I can only describe as a vision or a pocket realm of something far stranger than I cannot force my mind to rationalize. I journeyed into the Endless Archive once again in search of a book to further my research into this place's history. But this time, when I reached the end of one section, 2 portals appeared instead of 1. Now I have a healthy appreciation of the threats of this place. I know what dangers lie in straying from the known paths, especially now. So I cannot rightfully say what drove me to step into the second portal. From there, my experience became indescribably strange. As we make our way through the archive ourselves, we'll also see sometimes we'll be presented with 2 portals instead of 1. Stepping off of that path actually has some interesting encounters that we can do, and we'll be doing those as we go along. My eyes didn't fit in my skull. They still ached from being stretched beyond their usual perimeters, and my teeth feel entirely too small. I remember a nauseating amount of sugar. The sweetness sticks to everything. When I come to my senses, retching on the ground with just enough wherewithal to ensure that I didn't soil a priceless folio, the sweetness followed me. It's still here, like a sort of honey toffee, clinging to the back of my mouth. My legs and arms ache as well, as if I've run a great distance, but I am back on the same platform from which I left. I will turn to bed after finishing this account. Maybe whatever I experience would make more sense after a long rest. And so that's basically the gist of where we're starting with the story. There are some more things that we can explore around this initial area. You have each of the filers, which you can talk to, and they will give you some more background about the Endless Archive or what their job is. But more importantly, we have two vendors that we can be able to encounter. This first vendor, Filer Ol, is one that will give us
this area,
collectibles.
and you know there's something interesting here. Not like the spot Filer Teasures claimed. Plus, I have more variety of stock. See for yourself.
And we're looking at him. He has many different items you can buy. Each stage that you go through, you will gain some of these new tokens that you can be able to redeem. So each stage you complete has around, each cycle that you complete has around 220 or sometimes more points that it will grant you. So by collecting those, you can get different items from this, which include books that you can be able to place within your own library within your homes. It has style pages that you can be able to collect. It has leads from different areas of the world. With the leads, you will need to own the DLC if the lead is going to be dug up in that DLC. So be aware of that as you're looking at attempting to buy some. Other things that you can buy would be clues to your tribute card collection so that you can upgrade your cards. There are public dungeon collectibles. I wouldn't recommend spending on these, as you can be able to get these same collectibles just by farming for just a few minutes in any of the public dungeons. And finally, you have new items that are collectibles from the archive itself. These items will allow you to get certain collectibles, like this one here, the Unreliable Archive Map, gets you facial markings that you can be able to customize your character with more. And you have to collect a certain number of them before you're able to unlock that achievement. Some of these collectibles can be achieved within the archive itself. So, and these this vendor here actually changes their inventory over time, so you would want to come back here over time to see what new items that they have. I believe it's every week that they will change what items are available. So it's always good to stock up on some of those coins and then come back here and get the items that you really want that you had trouble farming. Now, there is one other vendor here that has a really nice little animation as you attempt to visit them. So as you see, as I approach, these books are going to come out of the water and they start to build a bridge that leads you to the vendor. This vendor here, Filer Teasures, has a couple of interesting things.
Got nourishment. Could exchange. Possibly.
This one has your achievement furniture. It has many different items, such as items for crafting that you can buy with your points. You even have items that you can be able to get gold, or even some of the item sets that are available within here you can be able to get. So if you only run a Nightblade, for instance, and you want to get a sorcerer's items to be able to add to your collections for when you run a sorcerer in the future, you can buy some of those item sets here, so that you can get some of those, because during your archive run, only items that your character can equip will be available and drop from the enemies. So if you're running on a Nightblade but you want the sorcerer gear, you'd want to either pay for it or run on a sorcerer through the content. Also, there are some upgrade content here as well. The upgrade content allows you to get additional benefits from the end of cycle rewards or end of stage awards that you receive through the Endless Archive. You have to do some optional content before you can be able to collect any of these. So you'll see that they're in red here because I can't buy them because I haven't completed that optional content as of yet. And the last thing that's of importance here is the mystery defense versus or offense versus. So these are additional buffs that you can be able to get, and you can use these within the archive itself. It will allow your character to get a random buff during a stage. So let's say at the very end of a stage you got a buff that you didn't really want, or you're on a really tough boss fight that you need to buff your character a little bit more. Using one of these can actually help there. That's the majority of what you can find here. I would suggest talking to all the NPCs as they give a little bit more background information as you go along. But we're going to go ahead and start the actual content now. So I'll be running on my tank Nightblade today, and Windhelmore will be my DPS that's going to be killing the enemies for me. Because I'm not the greatest DPS, so we're going to duo it. As you start, you can actually look around the area if you want to before going into the center. As soon as you enter this black center with the ink, enemies will begin to spawn. And excuse me, I actually am running on my DPS build, not my tank build. And there are some really great visuals here, so I really appreciate being able to look around and seeing what's around. During the first couple of stages, you can, as you go through stages before you go to the next cycle, you will actually be able to see some of the areas that you want to be going to. After completing that stage, you'll get a verse. A verse is giving you two options to choose from of different types of buffs that you can be able to get. Like this one here gives you a shield, while the other one gives you more damage with the guild skills that you use. And as you can see, we're actually in a location. We were previously down there, but the portal took us over to this next location.
Malligraphies? Excellent! I was concerned that they'd still be here.
And each time the buffs are different. The things with verses is that will the verse will only be good for the next round that you're in. So you have to choose carefully with these. Once we get to the first boss, we'll be able to choose a vision, which is similar to the verses, except for it gives you a buff no matter how many stages that you go through. And here is an optional path that just appeared. So we're going to go into it, and it's going to be somewhat of a mini game usually. This time it is an enemy that we're facing, and we have to defeat her. So what we're going to need to do is probably focus the crystals first, and then the enemy itself.
Finally, an opponent!
Unfortunately, we failed this one. I probably could have done it if I was on my tank, but I was not. So we'll try it again next time.
Made it this far. Keep it up.
And this is a boss. So Blackheart is one of the dungeon bosses. You can also encounter world bosses and even trial bosses within here as well.
Humble Nimicuria.
Each of the chests will give you the archival fortunes, which is the tokens that you can be able to spend at your store. It will give you an item set that you don't have already in your sticker book. And during the event, you get extra loot with the plunder skulls. So it's really great to be able to farm quickly a lot of plunder skulls or whatever event is going on. And of course the visions, this buff will last as long as we're playing within this run. So this damage over time effect lasts longer. I use a lot of damage over time, so this is going to be good for me. And in the top right corner, you can be able to see that we're at Arc 1, Cycle 1, Stage 3. Now that we've defeated this boss, we can be able to go on to Cycle 2 within Arc 1. Thank you for the raid. We're exploring the Endless Archive today.
Mortal we needed. None shall best your ink-slaying prowess.
And there are going to be 5 cycles that we need to go through in order to be able to reach the end of the first arc when we fight the main Daedra behind this.
To reorganize this wing! Well, doesn't seem like it'll last too long. Without 3 eyes. there goes the last of the excitement here. You work quickly, mortal.
And if you need to repair during your fights, you can
It's
be able
not
to stop
every
at
day
the
that we get to
filer,
stop our work.
and you can always repair during each of the rounds if you need to.
Have I told you how great it is that you do all the fighting?
We're at the second boss now. This is another boss. I believe this one is from a... Not exactly sure which one this one is. But each of the bosses that you encounter here will be available to fight elsewhere in the game. Sometimes they'll be weaker, sometimes they'll be stronger.
It's a matter of some urgency, he says.
Now, there are some visions that are special visions, such as this one here, the crystalline support. If you collect a part of a set of them of 3, you'll be able to get a ice avatar defensive burst on your next run, and that will allow you to become to use it like an ice avatar of yourself to be able to combat enemies. It's really fun if you actually get to it. I think you're right, that is Wayward Sewer's boss. So the lures, the loot that you receive from the bosses does have anything that you don't have unlocked from your sticker book from the overland content. I have seen DLC content there as well.
Where I had to stop working. Maltese said you'd be done in here soon.
Another great thing about the archive is you actually don't need 2 people to do it. If you want to go solo in here, you can be able to go solo, or even bring a companion to be able to complete the content. There is actually achievements for doing all 3, of being able to go solo, doing it with companions, or with friends as well.
At last, ink creatures are gone and I can resume my work.
We're at the next boss.
I hope you've faced this calligraphy before.
I'll banish every last trace of you from this world. A moment's peace.
volunteered to come retrieve this.
And we're now in beginning of the next cycle. This is going to be the 4th cycle, so we're going to have one more boss before we face the main Daedra Thoat Reclamanum.
Well, your rewards are here, if you want them.
There are some unique buffs that you can get, like you can get a follower, which is like this rat that's following me. Once the follower dies, you can actually use it to cause damage to your enemies by exploding the body of it. It's interesting.
Fine packages for bloodshed and violence. Positively hard. Just the sort of excitement we needed here. You're still alive! Mortals who don't die are quite hard to come by.
And we're at the last boss of this cycle
But I think you
before
can
the final
handle
boss.
Delicious!
Don't move around so much. My domain.
And they do have similar mechanics to the actual boss that you face. Some of them are a little bit dumbed down, as there's not enough room. One thing to be very cautious about during boss fights is knockback effects with the edge of the platform, as it's very easy to be able to get knocked out and die very easily. You only have 3 lives. That's if both you and your partner die. If only one of you die, then it won't be. You can still recover, and it won't take from your death count.
To my domain.
My lord will hear of this.
There are no books up here. I'm too smart for that. Smart enough to take the fragments of Mel.
And time for our next vision, and let's see. Some of the buffs will not be good for certain playstyles, but for other ones it will be good, so not everything will resonate with your character.
Your gifts from Hermaeus Mora are ready for you here.
Now, we will be doing some giveaways later on. If you're interested in Necrom, you can be able to get Necrom from the store. We also will be giving a code away for Necrom later on for PC NA. Or, well, not really NA, but PC.
Almost no one in the archive has martial skills. It's a good thing you came along.
And we get another special area to go to. There's about 5 different variations that we can go to. This one's pretty fun, as we're going to turn into a goat and have to eat some sweet rolls to kill the butcher that's going to be after us. We have no attacks until we filled our ultimate bar up by collecting sweet rolls. So let's go ahead and do this one. It's quite fun.
No one survives the butcher.
And depending on what stage you are, your stamina will decrease at a different rate. You have to get around 3 sweet rolls in order to fill up your bar. So I killed him. And there are 2 butchers that you have to kill. He's closer on getting ultimate, so I'm going to go ahead and let him get the last sweet roll. At which point he can turn against the enemy and be able to headbutt him. And now that we defeated them, there is actually another book that's in here that gives you a little bit of backstory on these butchers as well. Let's go ahead and read it. It's The Obscure Killers of the North. The Obscure Killers of the North by Flornat Epinard. In this book, we've discussed the Bolgelvi Throat Cutter, Lingard the Prisoner, and the Nameless Nord. Now we've come to the most mysterious killer of them all. Some of my fellow scholars question if this person actually existed, despite the plethora of accounts. I will concede that while folklore and superstition are not the most accurate references, often shifting to account for new and greater beliefs, they usually contain at least some kernel of truth. Still, the very nexus of lore that discusses this killer leads me to believe that all the stories, rhymes, and ditties reveal events that happened. Regardless of the actual historical basis for the killer, the effect he had on the cultural practices of northern Skyrim are clear. It is said that children hide under their beds on the darkest night of the season in the hopes that they would be spared, and that all adults fell silent under the threat of offending the wrong person and facing the consequences. Allow me to introduce to you, dear reader, the Butcherer of Morthal. Little is known about this elusive character. He appears sporadically in tales dating back to Second Era 248, and more frequently in children's songs from the same period. Throughout history, butchers have served as a source of fear and folklore. Perhaps this fascination stems from the profession's familiarity with the dead and their anatomy. Whatever the cause, there are facts which cannot be ignored about the supposed Butcherer of Morthal. He's a dastardly man, Butcherer Hayfil, protective of his sweet rolls. His steel is colder than old Morthal, to carve you up for frost trolls. He'll call you goat while he slits your throat, the dastardly butcher, Hailfall. When the river thaws, then it's down you're afloat, never again seen in Morthal, which is a children's skipping rhyme from Second Era 275. The disturbing details of the above excerpt point to the long winter of Second Era 248. As many as a dozen families disappeared, what led to paranoia and worry among the survivors of Morthal. The missing Nords were never found, though their doors were left open, almost as if someone came into their homes in the middle of the night and dragged them away. Our records from the period bear no mention of the name Hailfall, or this mystery would be solved before it began. It's likely that name was attributed to the murders by the creator of the children's rhyme. Most scholars at the time, and my contemporaries today, assumed that the missing villagers were the result of strategic goblin attacks, which were frequent during that winter. But for a moment, let us consider that the Butcher of Morthal was real. Who was he? Morthal is not a large village, so it is unlikely there was a formal butcher. More realistically, every family had experienced butchering game animals. If there is one specialized craftsman, then it would be far easier to ascertain who the killer was, or indeed, if the killer was a skilled butcher at all. Still, there is a distinct possibility that butcherer refers to the gruesome fate of the victims, and not a profession at all. As for temperament, he would have to be highly reactive. The children's rhyme suggests that the killer exacted revenge over a breach of the code of conduct, eating his sweet rolls. If this is the case, that something as small as a missing dessert will result in brutal murder, then the killer would have to be more than just protective for sweet rolls. The protection would be fanatical, almost religious. But a religion devoted to a delectable dessert is straying too far from the source material to be a feasible theory, and so I will set it aside. This passage is actually interesting, as in Western Skyrim, we actually, with the Greymoor chapter, we actually encounter a religion of the sweet roll. So it's not as outlandish as this author is trying to make it out to be. It may be worth noting that many sources about Butcher Hailfall include references to goats. Perhaps this was a way of announcing his intent to his victims. There was a theory that multiple herds of goats also disappeared around the same year, though the records of herd sizes are more sparse than usual. I find that explanation difficult to believe, but for the sake of academic integrity, I resolved to include the information here. With such a secretive and potentially fictionalized killer, it's difficult to tell when the death stopped. In truth, it's impossible to tell if the killer was ever actually called. The other examples in this book have a more definitive resolution, which is a boon for historians and the populace as a whole. But the Butcher of Morthal's legend has never fully died. If you travel to Morthal and ask a village elder, they'll likely tell you who the Butcherer was. They may even regale you with tales of how the Butcherer haunted their nightmares as a child, which just goes to show the hold that the Butcherer has upon the people of Morthal. By existing in folklore and popular memory, he never really died. The Butcherer of Morthal can never truly be killed or defeated. What's interesting is because the maligraphies are created from books and the stories that are within this book, the mechanics of this side adventure of the turning into a goat, being butchered, or trying to eat the sweet rolls in order to combat the Butcherer is all based from the contents of the book itself and creating a story and reliving that story through the side content. I'm going to go ahead and get our buff before it disappears and our chest of goodies. Oh, we have a lead, a carved Mora Trendles, which is very interesting. We'll be checking that out later. And let's get our verse for the next stage. And speaking of sweet rolls, another thing that kind of reminds me with the children's tale was the Uncle Sweet share that we encounter from
Well, isn't this
Morrowind's
place
Blood
nice?
Moon chapter.
Though I couldn't furnish it.
From Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. But
hang back
we'll
now.
talk about that later.
Like
Let's
you
go
did
ahead
when
and
I used
get
Thorat's
into the main reason that we're here, which is to defeat Thoat Replicanum, which is the Daedra that we're hunting. It's creating these Daedra or creatures out of ink found within the books.
Thoat Replicanum, I call to you. Obey!
We had collected her name so that we could be able to summon her here.
I'm your enemy!
I want to savor this fight. I reject you. I cower.
During this fight, you do want to make sure that you kill the ads, as if you leave them up, it will be very difficult to stay alive. There's also this eye with a beam of light that you need to avoid.
My story doesn't end here.
And we defeated her.
Killed her! This version. She's spreading across the books in this archive.
And
There could
we
be
get,
hundreds of Thoat Replicanum.
for defeating her,
finished
we get
here,
our
meet me back
first
where we met.
piece
We
of
should talk
our
about what happened.
medium armor set for the
There are
Nightblade
more
class.
malligraphies and other Thoat Replicanum in the archive.
So each class gets their own item set that they can be able to equip. They cannot equip other classes' items, but it increases the damage or it buffs your class skills a bit for each of your classes that you have. So this one here is for Nightblade, which increases the damage and healing of siphoning abilities by 18%, which is pretty decent. Not everyone will go for it, but it is something that's worth theory crafting about. Now, what I find more interesting about this whole fight with Thoat Replicanum is the look of the Daedra itself and the ruins that we find them in. If we look around, we don't see the traditional ruins of what we expect in Apocrypha. We have the same arches that we find in Apocrypha, but everything is multicolored. There's reflections from each of them. The enemies that she summons are very crystalline in nature. And the only Daedra that really comes to mind with crystallization is Jigalag, who is also known to keep his own library, but in perfect working order. So it's my theory that this Daedra that we're fighting is one relating to Jigalag himself, which may be a hint at future content, maybe we're going to go to Sheregroth's realm in a few years or next year. But there's nothing really other than the architecture and the look and design of the enemy to point towards it being Jigalag related. But it's just my best theory I can come up with as of this moment. Let's go to our next vision. And at this point, I could choose to be able to go back to the beginning of this dungeon to be able to turn in the daily quest, or we can continue on as we just finished the first arc. So each arc has 5 cycles, and each cycle has 3 stages, with the third stage being a boss. So that's 5 bosses and 4 bosses, and then the main enemy of Thoat Replicanum per each arc.
choice while Master Malchus repairs the portal for you.
We're gonna go ahead and repair really quick,
Have you?
just to keep our gear up to date so nothing breaks. It may be too early for Jiggalag to appear,
Let me get a
but
good
it
vantage
is
point.
possible for his Daedra to still be around. Daedra are never dying creatures, so a creature that serves Jiggalag could serve other purposes and could still be around. Which is why I believe it is related to Jiggalag. Whether that means that we're going to encounter Jiggalag or not, who knows? But remember that time doesn't work the same way in Oblivion as it does in Nirn. So one error within Oblivion could be 3 times per an error within Nirn itself.
Try not to get ink everywhere. This isn't archive.
So the buff I have currently is one that gives me a link between the orb and any enemies that are within the line get damaged. It's really good for clearing out a lot of mobs at once.
Thank you, mortal.
There could definitely be more Daedric Princes. We do know that Deadlight was a area that had a Daedric Prince to it, but nothing is truly known if that one is relating to the one we encounter. Sorry, spoilers if anyone has... I'll stop talking now before I spoil anything more about Necrom itself. Now, here what's interesting is this little guy here is a treasure scamp that appears sometimes that will give you extra rewards if you kill him during boss fights.
Aha! Don't worry, I have it. See? All safe with me.
Now, I will say one thing that I continually encounter during the Endless Archive is inventory management. The farther you get into Archive, the harder it will be to manage your inventory, so I advise before coming into the Archive to make sure that your inventory is as clear as it can be.
Don't get rewards. Our work is always satisfactory, and therefore its own reward.
patience for destruction. This was my winged file. I'm glad to see it's largely undisturbed.
And it's time for the next boss fight.
The Maligraphy should fear
This
you,
one here should
but I
be
doubt they can
one of the
feel
bosses
fear.
from a world boss, if I'm not mistaken.
Master Malchus needs this fragment, and you need a portal.
There definitely are
Portals always
Daedric
need
princes
something.
outside of the initial 16. Even within the 16 Daedric princes that we have, there are some cases of them not being a Daedric prince before. We have Meridia, who was a Magna G that had fled into the stars, tearing a hole into Aetherius. But then she had returned, and when she returned, she was known as a Daedra once again. I have some theories about that, but I'm not going to go into it in this stream, but we will be doing a spoiler stream, I believe, with Lotus of Doom in the near future that we'll be talking about spoilers and theories. And this is a Marauder. Sometimes these guys will appear and they hit very hard. And they drop good loot, or they kill you, one of the two. If you die to a Marauder, they will disappear, but you will lose your life for that round. So right now we're trying to make sure we don't lose a life. We're close, so let's see if Windhelmor can be able to take him down by himself. It's always good to have a tank as one of your two people that come into the dungeon, as if you have a tank, then you're able to have that tank that boss while you take care of the ads really quick and be able to finally be able to kill him without one of us dying like I did here. One good thing is, even though I died, since Windhelmor did not die, we do not lose one of our lives for this round. And I just received a book, The Littlest Tome Shell, which is actually a item that you can get from, you can be able to get book drops that are actual furnishing items that you can read. That was one of them. And we got another one of our side quests. This one is a puzzle. So the goal here is to have one person stay back while the other person goes and gets it. So Windhelmor needs to be able to go forward. If he touches one of the tentacles, then what's going to happen is he will be teleported back to us here. Which here? If you look at these, you'll see which one it gets rid of. So you can be able to plan which ones you need. So let's say that we want to get rid of this one, this one, this one, and this one. For last, let's see. So we want to do this one, this one. Wendell Mar needs to move so that he can be able to get there. I think I messed up here. And we messed up because we messed up too many times. We cannot get across. But the goal here is to basically have one person control it and go one at a time. We'll come across this one again and we'll be able to complete it that time. Now, I do want to remind everybody that the Endless Archive is free for base game players. You can be able to complete it. You can be able to go in and start this content even if you do not have the Necrom story. But I do recommend picking up Necrom. The story of Necrom is very interesting and has many implications for the lore.
The Filers wanted me to pass along their well wishes on this fight.
This time we're coming across the Ascendant Lord. This guy is from Firesong DLC with Hyal. He is the final boss of all of that content. So once you've completed Firesong and Hyal, this is the final boss. In that questline, he does not die this quickly.
Retrieving these fragments is important, but keeping the maligraphies from destroying everything is important too.
Now, we will be doing a giveaway in a little bit. We are going to be giving away a Necrom code for PC. And then later on in the stream, we will be giving away one of the Elder Scrolls tokens that were received from the Las Vegas event at the beginning of this year. These are, you don't see them very often, but I was able to get an extra one that we'll be giving out to one lucky viewer today.
Don't mind. I'm just noting the issues here. Do these maligraphies know who you are?
Now, there are certain enemies that you do want to make sure that you target first. So if you see one of the larger guys with a staff, either the electric ones or the ones with green orbs, you want to focus them first, as they're very dangerous if left alive, especially if one of the marauders appear.
Quiet again.
And this is one of them here. So you want to make sure that you interrupt him and kill him as fast as possible. In the later stages, they can be a real pain if left alive.
I missed it! I'm sure you fought well.
And since we are on round cycle 4, stage 2, the next stage is going to be fighting Thoat Replicanum again. Each of the arcs that you encounter him or her, she will have additional mechanics that you have to fight through. There are 4 different difficulties all the way up to arc 4 that you can be able to face her. But before then, we have another side content to do. These are always interesting. Once again, we're going to be facing off against the butchers.
A weak goat, but still good for the...
Ooh, he hits hard. Don't let him hit you, Windemar. And they can res you.
Those sweet rolls aren't
Thank you for the bits there, MacLego. We need to collect a few of these sweet rolls in order to build up our ultimate, in order to be able to fight back against the butchers. We need 3 sweet rolls each in order to be able to fight back. We don't have a lot of stamina, as we're on one of the more difficult versions of it. Each time that you've completed it, you will have... it will get more difficult the next time that you face it, no matter what arc or cycle that you're on. I just need one more here, and then I'll be able to go against the butcher.
You'll make some delicious stew.
And we got one down. Got one to go. And we have defeated both of them. And I've got an achievement. Let's see what achievement it is. So kidding around, we have defeated all the different difficulty versions of this optional content. With kidding around, now that I've gotten this achievement, I should be able to buy one of the support items from this original store that can give me additional buffs to my verses or visions, or give me options, additional options for those visions and verses. Symphony of Blades. This is from one of the DLC dungeons that it's a Daedra that is with Meridia. Thankfully we have a tank due to the power that I picked up, so it's going to be not as difficult as him facing one of us.
My turn to pick the mimic fragment out of an ink puddle. I'm ecstatic.
And again, some of the visions you will see are part of a set. If you collect all 3 of those visions during one run, you have access to a verse that gives you a special power. Now I am going to start a giveaway. This giveaway is going to be for Necrom's story, Necrom's chapter, and you just need to type in !! Necrom. And once you type it in, you'll be added to the giveaway. I'm going to let that run for a while as we complete content, and then we'll give that code away. And
Home was affected.
now there is some interesting ambient dialogue that the filers will tell you occasionally about the Endless Archive itself. Some of the background lore is that all of the Endless Archive used to be one connected landmass before some catastrophe in the past separated it into its own little islands. So all these areas that you see us going through used to be part of a single landmass within Apocrypha, instead of each being their own pocket realm in a way.
Ah, so that is how you resolve this conflict.
doesn't look too out of sorts, but I'll have to do a full inventory to be sure.
And here we are once again. This time that we fight Thoat Replicanum, we are going to encounter several phases to this fight.
I'm not going to use Thoat's Nimic with you behind me.
I do have a theory that this stager may be related to Jigalag, as if you take a look at their design, it's very crystalline in nature. It looks very much like the Jigalag that we faced within Oblivion's DLC. We've entered the second stage. So we have an ice Atro, or well, a crystalline Atro, as well as the Thoat Replicanum boss. I recommend taking down the boss first, and then focusing the Atro second. Hopefully I can get him up soon.
This is who's been sent to tell me.
You are a big book, but
Unfortunately, I died. I should do a death counter next time.
I hold your name and bind it here.
And if you haven't entered the giveaway yet, it's exclamation point Necrom. We are going to be giving out a code to Necrom soon. It's going to be for PC.
Let us test your perseverance.
This wasn't in any of the books.
I'm not strong enough. Oh wait, I am.
Okay, we've gotten down the first boss. Now we need to focus the Atro, and this round will be over. Want to make sure to kill these little guys as well, as they can be a real pain if left alive. And we've finished Arc 2. Now we're going to be heading on to Arc 3.
She's spreading across the books in this archive. There could be hundreds of Thoat Replicanum. When you're finished here, meet me back where we met. We should talk about what happened. There are more malligraphies and other Thoat Replicanum in the archive.
And from here on out, it just gets even more difficult the farther you go into the archive. So now that we're on Arc 3, you're going to see these enemies are going to behave more like enemies that you would expect to face within veteran dungeons instead of normal dungeons. And you'll see more elite enemies as well. We want to focus the ones with the green staffs as they buff the other enemies, heal them, and if we get a Marauder, then if one of those are still up, then it can mean the death of us.
Don't forget to make your choice before traveling to the next wing of the archive.
It wasn't so much bones, it looked more like the ruins of a ancient city. A colorful one that had many different colors associated with it. My theory is that it could be related to Jiggalag. It possibly also could just be related to Meridia and the colored rooms. We can take a look at it next time we go. We have a Marauder, so we need to... never mind. Marauders are very difficult when you reach these later stages. We only have one thread remaining, so we only can wipe one more time. Thankfully, Marauders do not respawn when the cycle begins again, so we won't face him again on this cycle. Sadly, we don't get the extra loot from killing him, though. Usually when we make it this far, I'm usually on my tank. I'm not the greatest DPS, but I try my best. Next run, I will be taking my tank.
Jolly good and well done. These enemies were hardly a challenge for you.
If you go in alone, it spawns the same amount of enemies, and there's no... It seems to be about the same difficulty. You can also go in with a companion. There are achievements for going in with a companion, solo, or with a friend. So even though I'm doing this duo, you don't have to. You can be able to do all this solo if you want to.
Don't hesitate to return to the Index if you need to resupply.
Let me just
And division buffs that you get will help determine how far you get in the archive, because they can give you some pretty good buffs if you're able to get the RNG to get the right ones.
You should have seen the state of this wing before we filed it.
Taking someone with you is always a benefit, but not everybody always has friends available online to be able to do so. And so it's nice that they've made it to where you can actually do a lot of this content solo. You can go through the first 2 arcs solo pretty quickly if you are a even somewhat decent player. You'll be able to do both of the first 2 arcs. I would not recommend going on a tank by yourself, but if you are going on by yourself, make sure to be a DPS so that you can be able to damage the bosses and it doesn't take forever to do the content.
This wing is particularly flammable. Try not to say it. Is it over? Good, good. Now I can get that book mount as needed.
We have one more stage before we fight a boss. We always want to focus the person with the green staff first.
Verses and visions aren't just gifts. They make your fights more interesting. Don't waste them.
Now after this next boss fight, we are going to be taking a small break, and as soon as we're done with that break, we will we're finished the giveaway.
But I've seen you defeat greater challengers.
If you haven't entered the giveaway yet, make sure to do exclamation point Necrom, and we'll be picking the winner shortly. And we got a treasure scout. We want to make sure that we interrupt him when he tries to teleport away, as he gives some good loot sometimes.
Oh good. Northerby's gone. I can fetch the fragment and return to arranging my wings of the archive.
We are going to take a small break here before we return and finish the giveaway. Okay, we are back. And for everyone that's just joining us, I am Benefactor. I usually am with the Imperial Library. Today I am playing through the Endless Archive on a sponsored stream by Zenimax and representing the UESP today. With that, if we are currently doing a giveaway that we will be shortly giving away a Necrom code for a PC. If you have not yet entered, you can be able to enter by typing in !Necrom into the chat, and you'll be entered for the giveaway. We'll be finishing that giveaway very shortly. Just to give a little bit of time for those that are just joining us. Now, as we are back, the Endless Archive, as you look around, it has some really great visuals if you are somebody that really cares about aesthetics. It has many of the same architecture that Apocrypha has, but in a not so linear fashion as we expect from Hermaeus Mora's realm. Alright, I believe everybody has their entries in. So let's go ahead and close the entries and choose a winner. And the winner is Bro Sephirim. Bro Sephirim, we're going to go ahead and I'll be messaging you, and we'll get that code for Necrom out to you. Congratulations. Give me one moment while I go ahead and get that code to you. Bro Sephirim, go ahead and give me a whisper with my handle, and I'll be able to give you that code. And stick around as we do have one more giveaway. We will be giving away one of the Las Vegas tokens from the ESO event earlier this year, as we have one that we have been graciously had to be able to give away. They're really fun collectibles to have. Okay, you should have your code now. And we're going to go ahead and start going through the Endless Archive some more. And very shortly we will begin the giveaway for the coin so that you anyone that wants to enter. Now, the Ferocious Support Vision is an interesting one as it's part of the Ferocious set. If you collect all three and then get the offensive first, the bestial transformation, you can actually become a werewolf behemoth. Similar to the Western Skyrim dungeon Stone Gardens, I believe it was, that you can become a werewolf behemoth during the quest line. You get that exact same power within the Endless Dungeon to play with. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go on to the next portal. And we're going to go ahead and wait for window. There he is.
Proving your worth. Glad to see other entities doing their share.
I hope to see you in Necrom, Bo Sephiroth, as it's a great story content that's available within Necrom, and I suggest that you do it all the way through, as there's definitely some cool surprises in there for the lore community, if you enjoy the lore. And this side content, we've tried it earlier, but we failed. So we're going to go ahead and try it one more time. Let's see if we get better luck this time. We got to get this crystal down. Got a nightmare. These things are really creepy. They're from I think it's Namira, and they're really scary. Now with this boss, even though she has a full set of health, you actually don't need to bring the health all the way to 0 to win. Depends on which round it's in. Will depend on which area needs, how far you need to get her health down to. Let's see if you can be able to get me up. Resurrecting during this fight's a little bit easier. And the longer you go without killing the crystal, the more damage it's going to do to you. Sadly, we failed. So let's hope we can try it again. Maybe on the next run with my tank, we'll be able to get it done with. And these, so there is a side quest that I've been doing to collect certain items from the Endless Archive that you can get from one of those side contents that you are entering. And this one here, I have to collect 7 of these bookbinding supplies to be able to complete the quest. But it's very difficult to find them, I found. So you may have to do multiple runs in order to be able to complete it. But the story behind that quest is you're trying to recreate a book that's going to be translated about Reachman fables. I'm really hoping that they have an actual book at the very end that you can be able to read, as it seems like it could be a very interesting story.
Is the perfect spot to create the next portal. It has the best temporal elasticity. The verses and vision.
It's always good to repair your armor every couple of rounds, just in case. You don't want to have your armor break in the middle of a boss fight, for instance.
It looks tougher than it is. Probably.
My eternal duty lies in killing those who seek me. You are worthy. At last, I am.
Where is the mimic fragment? Oh, there it is. Master Malkath says you do good work.
And we get lots of plunder skulls from doing this, as each of these boss fights gives you one. If you encounter any of the marauders, you get one. If you encounter even the scamps that you even get some.
Immortal, with the rewards. I do hope you'll choose something interesting.
Oh, great. You haven't started yet. Now Tess said you'd be done in here soon. How do you understand depth without 3 eyes?
I love the little clips that the Daedra give you as you go through,
I don't
as they
appreciate
don't
violence
understand a
as much as
human
Aruba.
perspective,
That
even
was
though
somewhat enjoyable.
you kind of understand where they're coming from, to where Daedra are unchanging, even though humans or well, Mer or men are constantly changing because they're a part of Nirn. And it's something that they always strive for. We have this one here. Let's see. So with this puzzle, you have to see which one's going to be activated. So this one here activates the first one part. This one activates the very far back one. This one activates this one. So we want to activate this one, then this one, this one, this one. Let's see. The one that we don't need to activate is this one here. So we do this one, this one. Window you need to move. So we do this, 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 and finally this one. Move. We messed up. Okay, so the order that we need to do is 3, 1, 6, 5, and then 2. So I'm going to go ahead and get in position, and Windowmar is going to go ahead and click them in order. So 3, 1, 6, 5, 2. Puzzles require a lot of coordination. Ah, we almost had it. One more time, and we should be able to get it. Oh, it cheated. We were close, but we didn't get it this time. Maybe next time.
I recognize this one. And if I were here for academic purposes, that'd be a good thing.
We have Rakat. This is the final boss of Maw of Lorkaj. Which is... he's not as difficult with this one. But he's decent enough fight. Let's see if we can get through him. We only have one chance at this, so unfortunately we have failed to complete this arc of the archive. There is a limit, which is what we reached for the side puzzle. Unfortunately, there's like 5 or 6 times that you can attempt it. Now that we have completed the archive, we can actually, once you kill Thoat Replicanum, at least one time you can turn into daily.
Another Thoat Replicanum gone. I shouldn't be impressed, but I am. There are more versions of Thoat roaming the Endless Archive. I'd understand if you want to keep hunting them, but I do have your payment.
We're going to take the payment.
You did great work in setting the Endless Archive to rights. The next time you want to travel these halls, I would be more than happy to pay you for your skills again.
And we get a container that has some of the currency for the archive that we can redeem for the rewards. And we have a malagrific ichor. This fragment, if you collect 50 of them, you can get them from doing the daily quest, or you can get them from doing some of the side content, as well as killing the treasure scamps that you have during the boss fights. And if you collect 50 of them, you actually get a mount that you can get from this archive. This, I believe, is going to be my third malagrific ichor, my third or fourth. So we're going to go ahead and use it so that we can be able to get it out of our inventory, because we're running out of inventory space, which is a constant thing that I have experienced within this endless archive. Let's go ahead and correct our fortunes, and we're going to go see if there's anything that we want to buy. So we have two different merchants that we can buy from. There's the Filer Ol.
I had to use magic to carry everything over here, which wasn't too difficult, but it still required effort. All I'm saying is it'd be rude of you not to purchase something.
And let's see what we have here. We have the books that I've already bought. There's treasure maps you can get. There's going to be a bound style page. Each of these items is going to refresh each week on what items that you... so it's usually harder to obtain equipment, things that you have to rely on RNG for, that you're able to spend these points, that way you don't have to go through the trouble. Some of them are not as worth going for, such as the Sigic Glow Globe, because you can be able to farm that pretty quickly by going to the public dungeon that it drops in. But other ones, like this Arms of Glory, it only drops from the... It's a lead that is for the Telvanni Peninsula. So you have to have the Necrom DLC in order to be able to get this lead. But this lead actually allows you to get something that's only available from treasure maps. And treasure maps are an expensive commodity, running around 100k. For each one that you buy, or if you find them very rarely, you'd have to rely on RNG to be able to get this lead. But because it's available here within the Endless Archive, you don't have to worry about doing that endless grind for that lead. So it's definitely worth going and getting through the Endless Archive to be able to start to collect the items that you want from this merchant. There's nothing that I want here yet, but I'm going to go ahead and visit the other one here. And even though we finished this archive, we can actually do it multiple times per day by ending the thread and then beginning the archive over again. We're going to show that in just a second.
Mortals trade.
So this merchant has many of the different items that you can get, and the item sets from each of the different classes. So if you're running one particular class that, but you want to get an item set for a different class, you can be able to buy that box here and get a random one. What is very interesting here is the mysterious defensive verses or offensive verses. You can be able to get additional buffs that you can use while you're in the archive itself. And there are also these upgrade items that you can get once you get some of the side achievements. And when you have the side achievements, you can buy these upgrades so that you can get additional visions. Like this one gives you a third choice on your visions, which are good for throughout the archive. Or you can improve the strength of your verses, which are the ones that you get at the end of each stage that increases your potency of them. And so some of these are really worth getting. This one here is the sweeter deal. I could get this upgrade, but I don't have enough cash for it yet. So I'm going to be working towards getting this so that I can be able to get these upgrades to more easily traverse the Endless Archive. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to end the instance by going over to this hourglass. And we're going to shut down the instance, which will... actually, I need the group leader to end it. So that we can end this version of the Endless Archive, so we can start it over again, so that we can play as a tank. As you cannot change class or change skills using the armory while inside the archive, you have to be able to exit it before you can be able to change it and then come back in. We're also going to go ahead and start the second giveaway for the coin. This one's going to be similar to the last one. We're going to go ahead and put in exclamation point Necrom to be able to enter this giveaway for the More Challenge coin. That came from the Las Vegas event that we had earlier this year that announced Necrom. And it even comes in its own little Ouroboros pouch. It's a nice little collectible to have. One second while I go ahead and activate that giveaway. Now go ahead and type in exclamation point Necrom to be able to be entered into the giveaway. Sorry, Flug Noodle, I didn't activate it soon enough before you put in your first one. We're going to go ahead and take out our armory so that we can be able to easily change to our tank build so that we can do this one more time. And we're going to go back through the portal, back to the Endless Archive to start over from the beginning. This time we're going to try to make it a little bit faster and quicker through the archive. On these first couple of stages, I'm not going to be too much help as I don't do a lot of DPS, but a tank is really, really valuable in the later stages as we gain difficulty.
The battle? Ah, well, there's always the next one.
And just a reminder, you can be able to visit the Endless Archive without having Necrom access, as it is available with the base game. It has many different rewards, and it's a very interesting dungeon that you can be able to do at your pace. And there's something for everybody, no matter what your skill level is. You should be able to clear a little bit of it as you go along. It's great for leveling new characters. It's pretty fun too when you're doing a duo with a friend. And there's lots of great rewards that you can get from the archive.
Done in here? Oh, nearly. That's good then.
We should get another mimic fragment from this maligraphy.
I will DM the winner of the raffle. But if, so if, so I will be doing the drawing of the raffle at 3 p.m.
Smart enough to take the fragment to Malkest as well.
And there are lots of great achievements to be able to get from the Endless Archive. So if you're an achievement junkie like me, then there's tons of things to be able to attempt to accomplish. You get a nice die if you get to the 4th arc. If you complete just the first arc, you get a nice trophy to hang on your wall throughout Reclamatum. Or if you complete the whole of Arc 4, you'll be able to get a bust to be able to put in your home to be able to say that you completed it. And
I see you're proving your worth. Glad to see other entities doing their share around here.
It looks suspicious.
we got ourselves another side quest. This one here, we're trying to collect tome shells, but we also want to make sure that we don't get killed along the way.
Deal with the tome shells. I have filing to do.
So this... So we're trying to kill the little tome shells here by avoiding all the dangerous stuff here. We got one. Next one's up ahead. We gotta avoid the tentacle here. Next one's over here. And we got one last one over here. I'm sorry, there's one more. I thought we were on one less stage.
You didn't kill them all? Come back here.
We had one more to go, but sadly, we both died before we could get it.
I recognize this. And if I were here for academic purposes, that'd be a good thing.
Come. I am the spigots of your throats.
This is the boss from Spindle Clutch 2. Like all the bosses here, you can experience all of them from the content that's already in the game. Most of them are dungeon bosses, but there are a few world bosses in here as well. And even a few trial bosses.
Master Malchus needs this fragment, and you need a portal. Mortals always need something.
My organization really works. This wing is particularly flammable. Try not to step in the light.
And of course, there wouldn't be an Elder Scrolls game without some cliff racers here and there. Thankfully, they're not nearly as annoying as within Morrowind.
Oh, not much damage to the general structure. This is salvageable.
Made it this far. Keep it up.
Let me just grab this fragment. Nothing to see here.
And I'm running out of inventory space. I might need to do a little bit of inventory cleanup soon. If you're really trying to clean up your sticker book and get everything that you haven't been able to get before from the Overland content, I suggest doing the Endless Archive, as you will get a ton of items to be able to complete your sticker book. For those that don't know, the sticker book is the set items that you get. Once you have gotten a set item, it adds it to a sticker book, which you can then recreate that item later on if you have enough material to be able to do so.
Don't get rewards. Our work is always satisfactory, and therefore its own reward.
Another side content. This one, we need to collect orbs and bring them back to the center.
You startled me. You gather my lights.
We have a time limit for this one. You can't go too fast, otherwise the orbs will not follow you.
Fantastic. Here's some treasures for you. I'll scrounge up my own.
You fought well. Your rewards are here, if you want them.
Defilers wanted me to pass along their well wishes on this fight.
Feel the force! I will make you feel.
I've come to retrieve the Mimic Fragment. Carry on.
And I've started to have to leave some of my treasure behind because I am out of inventory space. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up a little bit. And once again, if you haven't already, go ahead and enter the giveaway, as we are going to be giving away a coin
file any of these books there.
from the Las Vegas event that occurred earlier this year for ESO, and that coin will be given away around 3. You can enter by typing in exclamation point Necrom.
Not many books misplaced here. Shouldn't be difficult to clean.
choice before traveling to the next wing of the archive.
And once again, this is the last boss of this arc, which is Doat Replicano. Each of the arcs, they gain a different power, or the fight gets longer with different mechanics. So this is the very first arc, so it's not going to be that difficult.
Bookish monster without a spine.
fate echoes unfavorably. Test your strength against this. Version of me gives up.
I knew the fight would be difficult, but I was not expecting that. I need to research Thoat Replicana more. Her abilities elude me. You can join me if you want, but there are other Maligraphies and Replicanums still in the archive.
And again, the main story behind this is that this Daedra is controlling books and creating creatures from the books itself using the ink. And so Thoat Replicana is bringing stories to life that you have to fight. And even creating copies of herself. So you're trying to eventually kill the original. Now this is one thing that's very interesting is that occasionally
Gifts from Hermaeus Mora are ready for you here.
occasionally you will find books within the stages itself. These books will explain, these are the books that Thoat has been using to create the maligraphies that you're fighting. So these random mobs that we're going through in each stage, they have different categories of where they're coming from. So this book here, for instance, is one that explains that they're taking the Knights of the Silver Rose from one of the earlier ESO dungeons, and why they're appearing here is because this book was stolen and corrupted, and those maligraphies are coming from this book. So let's go ahead and read this book and just learn a little bit more about the Knights of the Silver Rose enemies that we're fighting and why they may differ a little bit based upon the author's bias, because based upon what's written in the book is what the enemies come out as. So they can be stronger or weaker than their actual counterparts based upon the perspective of the writer. And sorting through my thoughts regarding the Knights of the Silver Rose and all that transpired that day, I came to one sorry revelation: that anyone, no matter how upstanding, can fall to the shadows beyond Azura. I do not want to believe what my eyes saw. I do not want to acknowledge that the knights I so admire could become these fiends. I do not want to say that the knights who strive to protect would turn on those they guarded, but all these things are true. Whether those creatures who once stood as a safeguard against oblivion retain a fragment of their uncorrected selves is beyond my understanding. I hope not. I hope they didn't have a small voice screaming inside them that this was wrong. I hope that whatever part of oblivion changed them took the last vestiges of memory from their minds. They certainly acted like it had. Let what occurred be a sign to all those who seek to contain the wonders of oblivion. It is a force that cannot be controlled by mortals. I will pray to Azura at dusk and ask her to protect us from the magics of oblivion. maybe one as powerful as a Daedric prince can better stand against the fate I have seen. Waylon. And because of this, any of the Knights of the Silver Rose that we encounter here are mindless people that attack you on sight, as that's the way that he viewed them and he wrote in his book that he wrote here that was used to create those maligraphies. Hopefully we'll come across another book or two as we travel through the archives.
This place is chaotic enough as it is. These maligraphies know who you are? You fight well for a creature without eye beams. This is the most violence the archive has ever seen. That's a thought worth filing.
Would you mind fighting slower? I can barely record your movements for posterity.
Good show! Master Malchus requires this fragment, so I'll just pop it over to him, shall I?
And we're entering the second cycle of the second arc. Now, one thing I would suggest is if you're going through each of these stages, if you see the urns, like we see in the background here, then I would suggest that you look at them as they do contain furniture plans with many rare recipes in them. Now, this guy here that we're seeing is a marauder. At least once per arc, we will experience a invasion by the marauder that you either have to kill it, or if you die to it, then you won't be able to encounter it again until the next arc. It does, if you die, then you would lose one of your 3 lives if you completely wipe. So I would suggest you try to kill it if you can. They do drop some pretty good loot once you do kill them. Like we have a mysterious utility burst here, which will give us an extra buff on one of the stages if we choose to use it.
You came along.
And just as a reminder, go ahead, if you haven't yet, go ahead and enter the giveaway by typing in !Necrom. we are going to be giving away one of the Las Vegas event coins for Necrom that were given out to people that attended the event. This will be given out at around 10 minutes from now.
You should be a watcher. You can be a watcher. Those tome shells aren't going to hunt themselves.
We're looking for tome shells here that we need to kill. And you can be able to recover your teammates by going up to them and hitting X synergy with them. We have 2 tome shells left.
I'm sure you did your best.
Sadly, we didn't get it. We do have another book here. But sadly, if one person goes through a portal, it does pull the next person with them.
What have they done to my beautiful filing system? Make the malligraphies pay! Try not to get ink everywhere. This isn't archive. I expected... Well, I can't tell you what I expected, but you exceeded.
It looks tougher than it is.
This one is from
You come to fight,
Mazurton, I
Seymour?
believe.
Seymour fights! You trophy soon. Seymour swears it. No! Seymour must take trophies.
My turn to pick the mimic fragment out of an ink puddle.
You are
I'm
correct. That would be the
ecstatic.
Blackwood world boss instead. I was thinking about the chained Argonian behemoth from Mazurton, which is a different encounter.
Calligraphies? Excellent! I was concerned that they'd still be here. I want to see what you make of this battlefield. Go on! Eat them! Eat them! Beats just reading about great battles. Fantastic! Truly a battle worth witnessing.
And we're gonna go ahead and fight this last boss, and then the giveaway will occur.
These calligraphies are tough, but I've seen you defeat greater challenges.
This might be amusing.
And we've completed cycle
Keeping
3.
those fragments is important, but keeping the calligraphies from destroying everything is important too.
Alright, for our last minute giveaway, if anyone hasn't entered already, go ahead and type into chat explanation point Necrom, and you will be entered for the giveaway. We're just going to give it a minute here for everyone that hasn't already entered. Alright, let's go ahead and close the entries, and we are going to pick our winner. So we have a winner, Lantern 20. Lantern 20, you are our winner for a Necrom coin. So congratulations. If you can go ahead and send me a whisper, I will go ahead and get your information so that I can be able to send that to you. And congratulations, those coins are really popular and they're good collectibles to have. I hope everybody has enjoyed our stream today. We are going to end it here. If you are not aware, the UESP is the wiki for all things Elder Scrolls related. I am Benefactor. I am representing the UESP on today's stream. I am usually with the Imperial Library, another kind of sister site to the UESP that focuses just on the lore. If you can find us at uesp.net or the Imperial Library, you can find at the Imperial Library as well. So give us a follow. You can also see at the very top of the screen where you can find us on Discord, as well as where you can follow us on Twitter. We're always looking for people to use our site, and we try to keep it updated all the time with the latest and greatest information about Elder Scrolls and Elder Scrolls Online. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and everyone have a great evening.